So hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bones and Stones. You'll see we've got quite a few guests today. We've got an exciting chat lined up. Tim Forsman has recently been up into the field with a group of students. They've been conducting some field work. So today we've got Courtney, Sonja, Joanne, and Natalie that are going to be joining us. And we thought today we'd just chat a little bit about their time in the field. It's always nice to get into the field, but sometimes as a young student, it's a little bit scary to, think about the prospect of going into the field. Sometimes you're going with strangers, people from other departments and stuff. So we thought we'd maybe just grapple with a couple of those issues today. But maybe, guys, if you want to maybe just introduce yourself first. Sonja, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about, your kind of role in archaeology, why you were going up to the field? Was this part of your research, if I'm not mistaken?
Hi, yeah. So this is part of my master's project. I just started my master's project this year, and I'm researching on Little Muck and the chronology of the site. And so, yeah, this is why I went to the field, and I can't wait to go back.
Awesome. So you were kind of dragged to the field. Tim dragged you to the field because you kind of had to be there because it's for your research. So yeah, but no, that's awesome. Thanks very much, Sonja. And then Courtney, your kind of background, quick.
I'm a second year archaeology student. Still no specifications in mind, specializations, but stone tools have jumped to the top of the list after the dig.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. Okay, great. And Joanne?
Okay, I'm Joanne. I'm also a second year student studying archaeology. I'm really passionate about the past, and that's why I went into archaeology. The past is just something that really fascinates me. And yeah, same with Courtney. Stone tools really became something cool after this field trip.
Awesome. I'm glad stone tools is kind of high up on the list because, Tim and I are both really interested in stone tools. So yeah, well, mainly because Tim's a tool anyway. But Natalie, just your background there.
Well, the tea is that I like archaeology, and at first I thought, dead bodies would be kind of cool, but then I went on the trip and I realized bone are my enemy. Stone tools are pretty cool though, so it's chill.
Awesome. Okay, thanks guys, thanks for that. So let's maybe just kick things off. Tim, do you want to maybe give us a little bit of background in terms of why you guys were actually going up there? Obviously Sonja spoke a little bit about it in terms of it feeding into her research, but with you coordinating the kind of broader landscape project that's going on there, can you maybe just talk us through it?
Yeah, sure. So, so the project basically is at the moment is situated at Little Muck, but it actually feeds into a much bigger project that's looking at what we generally consider as foragers and their sequence in this part of the world. So obviously using archaeology to tap into that. And what the project's looking at particularly is how hunter-gatherer communities interacted with incoming farming communities when they arrived in the valley, how those interactions changed and started to change aspects of forager society and lifeways, and with a particular emphasis on the local economies and how hunter-gatherers traded and interacted with those groups by providing craft goods or whatever else, and then receiving things in return. And that's kind of why we at Little Muck. The site was actually excavated in the late 90s by Simon Hall and his team from Wits when he was still up there. And they excavated 6 squares, 2 inside the shelter and 4 outside. These are 1 by 1 meter squares. So it has been studied. 1 square in particular, where there's a complete sequence, square L42, has been examined by a number of people, including myself. But one of the things that Simon and his team found at the site is a really massive amount of stone scrapers. And they suggested that these stone scrapers were linked to hide production over and above the requirements of the local community. At the same time that these stone scrapers start to increase, and it's increasing significantly as well, there's an appearance of glass beads, metal, ceramics in the assemblage as well. So it seems linked to interaction with farmer communities and trade with them. And this is kind of what we wanted to explore in more detail. So we don't have charcoal samples, so we're re-excavating the site in order to date the site as well, but also to expand the assemblage. So the 1 square that we have access to for various reasons is, it's a very limited area. You can imagine it. So 1 by 1 meter square in a fairly large shelter. So over the next 2 years, which we started now, our plan is to expand on that, to excavate in different areas of the site, and then to also excavate in the area that Simon and his team excavated, and possibly move just outside the shelter too. So for this particular trip, which is our first, obviously being delayed by coronavirus, we began excavating the western side of the site, which hadn't been touched really, and everything was going really well. And then the rains decided to arrive, and we got drenched. But more importantly, the deposit got completely soaked. And every day that we visited the site, this moisture content, you could just see it spreading across our excavation, up until when our entire site was completely wet. Now, what we also noticed, which was a problem for us, is that it was completely changing what we could see in terms of the stratigraphy, and that was an issue. So we closed up that trench. We excavated 2 squares down to bedrock, which we could see down to the bottom basically where it wasn't too wet. We closed up that trench for this season, so we'll reopen it again next year. But when we realized this sort of happened, we decided to expand on Simon's excavation. So we excavated in the area that Simon and his team dug. And it was really cool. I mean, it was dry, fortunately. And we dug down. It was quite nice because we sort of had an idea of what we were going to find in terms of stratigraphy. But we found a lot more variation within the stratigraphy of this area than in what they identified, which is really quite cool to see these different changes. But also, fascinatingly, in the strata that they expected to date to around 8,900 to 1,000 based on beads and ceramics, which is about 35 millimeters thick and supposed to be a really, really dense layer. We hit that, or we think is that at least, except where we were excavating, it was up to about 15 centimeters thick, which is great. I mean, all the way down to bedrock as well. So it was overall, despite the delay and problems we had with the other trench in the western area, that trench we managed to get down to bedrock, got some really great archaeology out, and looking forward to sort of sitting down and analyzing it and seeing what those results are.
I'm sure it's going to take a while because it sounds like you guys found some amazing stuff. So Tim, thanks very much for that very short and succinct explanation of everything that you pretty much did over the field trip. Anyways, guys, let's talk about the actual field trip itself. Okay. Let me maybe pose this first question. How did you guys find out about the fieldwork opportunity? Courtney, maybe I can direct that question to you. How did you find out about the trip?
We're going to have the HARP excavations was in June, and Tim did mail us and ask us if any of us would be interested, since we kind of need to build up the experience since we are quite baby archaeologists. So I kind of signed up then, and then with COVID it got pushed back and back and back, and at one point Tim mailed our entire class, since we're doing methods, and he kind of opened the floor. And he said, anybody who wants to come along, we had a few spaces. And then we were the few that did actually want to go. But it was smack bang in the middle of the semester. So it wasn't the best time, but also it was pretty nice to get away. So yeah, we kind of he created the opportunity and he kept bringing it up. So we didn't have a choice but to say yes.
Awesome. Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, always a thing is finding people that are willing to come and help and stuff. And obviously it's great to bring students into the process because it's a great way to learn, kind of beyond the classroom. But Tim, did you also post some adverts and stuff on social media, or was it all just kind of emails directed to the class?
No, initially, Courtney's mentioned HARP. HARP is Hunter-Gatherer Archaeological Research Project. It's just sort of the bigger umbrella of this whole project. And initially, it was just meant to be people who are participating in the project. So Sonja, I have another honours student in the project as well, 2 prospective honours students for next year joining the project. And so there was a few spaces available for other people. And because I'm teaching the methods course and there was meant to be an archaeological trip, I thought I'd open it up to the second years and see who'd be willing to attend. And only 3 students came forward, which are the 3 sitting here today.
Okay. No, awesome. I mean, just thinking back to my experiences in undergrad and, getting involved with field trips and stuff, sometimes it's a little bit, you feel a little bit apprehensive about kind of putting yourself out there and getting involved in these kinds of trips. Like I said, when we started the conversation, for various reasons, with going with the people people you don't know, experiencing new environments and stuff. So maybe, Joanne, if I could maybe direct this question to you, did you have any apprehensions or kind of concerns leading up to the field trip, things that you were concerned about before going into the field?
Honestly, I can say there wasn't really anything I was concerned about. Maybe when Tim mentioned the deadly spiders and scorpions and stuff like that, but overall, I was really excited. Being in the field, camping is something I love, so I wasn't really stressed about that. In any case, we stayed at a lodge, so it wasn't really something that I was worried about. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I was excited. But yeah, as I said, the scorpions and stuff like that was the thing that bothered me the most.
I think it is such a crazy landscape as well. I mean, I remember going up there the first time. I couldn't believe the first night we arrived. I mean, there were millipedes walking around the length of my foot. I was being chased by solifuges and scorpions everywhere. We could hear the lions roaring in the distance beyond the campfire. So it really is such an amazing, amazing landscape. So I would imagine, for some people that can also be, a bit hectic, because not all of the archaeological environments that we work in are necessarily so wild, so to speak. Often a lot of people do research just beyond kind of the city center, and you won't kind of, experience that true kind of natural environment. But then to maybe talk a little bit about some of the challenges you guys experienced. Tim obviously alluded to the fact that you had rain. The rain came. I saw the pictures on Facebook. It looked absolutely terrible. I myself have been in the field and experienced terrible rain as well. And excavating in that is not very easy. So maybe, and Natalie, if I could maybe just talk to you a little bit, what were the kind of challenges, kind of beyond just the environmental challenges of the rain and stuff and the heat, whatever, what were the challenges you guys experienced during the field work, and how did you navigate them?
Okay, well, the one that comes off the top of my head, which I might have been one of the only ones who experienced this, but you have to be stretchy to get into the trench. And I'm not tall or flexible, bam. However, it did mean that I could sort. So I'm cool with that. Also, my spider friend died, so I'm not over it, so it's okay. But other than that, actual archaeological things as well was just especially when it got muddy because of the rain, is all the colors, especially when you're sorting, it all looks the same. And then you think something is a rock, but it's actually just a bunch of sand or mud. And then you realize that once you break it. So yeah.
Okay, nice. And Sonja, maybe to just hand over to you to maybe carry on with that discussion. So I imagine, with trying to sort the material at the sieve, for example, for your actual project, that must have been pretty tricky given the wet sediment. What was your guys' plan to kind of navigate around it? Tim, you mentioned you moved the excavation. Sonja, do you want to maybe talk to that?
Yeah, so with the rain, it did get kind of muddy, but we were able to dry out most of the deposit on a tarp. So the things we brought back were not muddy at the moment. But with sorting in the field, we didn't get to do much sorting because we were running out of time. So that's what I'm currently doing at the lab right now. But yeah, with the mud, it was an issue to excavate because some of the layers got really rock hard. But other than that, the deposit wasn't that wet when we came back home.
Okay. I think just, with a field school experience or fieldwork experience like this, at least the one thing that helped me kind of early on in undergrad was, getting into the field, and you learn very quickly about the aspects that you're learning about in the classroom. And, when you have your lecturer there and they're telling you about later Stone Age lithics, middle Stone Age, or you're talking about Iron Age or rock art, whatever, it's very different when you're actually within an archaeological landscape and you're able to experience that firsthand. So I'm very excited that kind of stone tools are what's, jumping out for the majority of you guys now. Maybe, Joanna, if I could ask you this question. I mean, do you feel like you've developed a kind of deeper level of understanding in terms of the subject matter that you've discussed in class, and now that you've actually seen and experienced, kind of holding it in the field?
Yes, definitely. I think the one thing that was really amazing to me in this field trip is about actually experiencing the stuff you read upon in the papers and the research articles you should use when you write an essay, for example. Actually seeing that stone tool, actually experiencing what archaeology actually is just, it's just amazing. So I really think the practical experience about how we as archaeologists one day in the future should operate is the one thing that really stood out for me in this whole field trip. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thanks, Shanae. And I mean, just feeding into that, I think also it gives you a little bit of clarity in terms of understanding what archaeology is actually all about, because it's very easy to kind of, have an outsider's perspective. But if you've never been in the field, field work in itself is also part of the process in terms of working out, even what kind of archaeologist you want to be, because there are obviously aspects of archaeology that are very field intensive, and then you can also be an archaeologist that does a lot more lab work and looks more at collections and collected heritage and stuff. So yeah, sorry, I'm going to hand over to Tim. I see you've got some A's and Q's in the box here. Sorry, I just keep talking.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to jump in on what Sonja was saying actually about the assemblage and drying out the deposit. And that's sort of where we realized this issue started to creep in, because when we started digging in the western portion of the site, it was actually already wet up in an area of it. So we found these two nice stratigraphic horizons that were adjacent to one another. And the one was like a dark brown, making this beautiful curve, like a rounded curve, almost like a platform. It was really weird. And then when the water started spreading through the site, the other unit, which was a grayish unit, became dark brown. And then we realized, as we watched this water spread, literally like a semicircular way across the site, that we were never seeing more than one strata. It was always just one, being confused or hidden rather by this moisture. But the other thing that I thought was really cool about the field trip as well, and I remember it from when I went on my first trip, which was actually to that area as well, my first big trip at least. It was like, we went for sundowners and we're standing on the top of a kopje looking down into the Limpopo Valley. And from there, you can see a number of archaeological sites, farmer settlements. And it's really quite cool to have people in the bush and to be able to say, like, there's a site. Because one of the things that you often encounter are people saying, well, is there really a lot of archaeology? Where is it? It must be hard to find. But if you know what you're looking for, there's a lot of it around. It's all over the place. And from that one lookout point, I think we counted 7 kraals that we could see from there. Some large, some small, some seeming to be multi-complex sites. But it's really cool to be able to take people also into the bush and to say, like, there is actually a lot of this stuff lying around that we can play with.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's such an incredibly rich landscape. And I mean, we did the field video not so long ago and stuff, and it was great to kind of re-experience that landscape. Even, for me, it was just digitally, but it was great. I've got a question for all of you guys. Tim, you can't chime in here. This is a two-part question.
Here we go.
From 0 to 10, how would you rate Tim's braaiing skills? And the second part of the question is, did he even ask you how you wanted your steaks? Medium, rare, well done?
Well, firstly, you obviously have a lot of money for your field trips if you're having a steak while you're in the bloody field.
Yeah. Actually,
we did have the crocodile steaks. We did have crocodile steaks. But he didn't ask. No.
So...
Nat, was that a 2? I saw you just do that. Was that a 2 out of 10?
That's a peace sign. That's a peace sign. Okay, I'm a vegetarian. I cannot judge his cooking skills, but I'm sure it tasted great. Also, 5%, please.
But maybe if I could just get on to your kind of take-home message, because it's one thing getting into the field. You come home, you come off a little bit of a high, or at least that's what I experienced, and I'm sure for you guys as well. It's quite exciting. You get back from the field and you've got all these stories in your head and you want to just tell everybody. But then, at least for me, when people ask me, I then can't seem to structure my thoughts in terms of what I actually tell people, because I'm just so excited everything's going on in my head. So for you guys, and I'll go through maybe each one of you, what would be your take-home message that you would maybe tell a friend or tell a fellow student, or maybe even your parents or family members? What is your kind of take-home message from this field school experience? Sonja, okay, you're still busy thinking. Let me maybe start with Joanne.
Okay, so I think my take-home message would just be that the archaeology, everything is just so diverse and so rich that, like when we went on the field trip, I never thought there's so much that you can get from digging one trench down, the amazing artifacts and the stone tools and the beads, etc. Archaeology is such a diverse and rich discipline that you can study, that there's so much things that you can learn, and so much more than just the theory behind it, how the practical relations and stuff like that. I think that is my take-home message that I basically would give.
Thank you, Natalie.
A rock is never just a rock. It might look like a rock, it might feel like a rock, but it's not just a rock. That is the T.
Okay. Courtney?
It's kind of a two-parter. I mean, don't knock it till you try it. I mean, I never thought I'd be all gung-ho for like 10 hours of just hard physical labor in the heat and the humidity, sweating, dust, bugs, sun, and as a vampire, not the easiest environment to work in. But so even for me, I had a ball. I couldn't wait to get up, go out the next day. Your knees, after a while, started creaking a little more than usual, but I loved it. And I didn't think I'd enjoy the digging aspect as much as I did. So don't knock it till you try it. And experiencing, like Jeanne said, every little thing. It's not about finding another massive golden rhino, which is what my parents asked me once I got back. It's like you'd find a bead this small after going through your tray 4 times, and you find a bead literally not even half a millimeter in diameter, and that would get you like spiraling. So everything in context makes more sense. Yeah.
Thanks, Courtney. Your comment there makes me think about another question that I was going to ask you in terms of, how was the daily work schedule? Because that's another thing as well. Often we hear these horror stories where, students are taken into the field and, they'll be shoved in an excavation for, 15, 16 hours a day. And I mean, that's quite hectic if you haven't, if you're not used to it and stuff, like Natalie was saying, contorting into these strange positions, having to be flexible to try and excavate, doing that for a couple of days consecutively for a number of hours, you really feel quite battered and beaten when you eventually come back. And then Courtney, just one more thing about experiencing different parts of the actual process. That's also important as well as, when you're in the field, and then also this comes back to, Tim's supervision on the actual excavation on the project is, rotating you through the different activities and things that are happening on site. Yes, there's the excavating, there's the sorting, there's the mapping, there's all these things that are going on. And it's great, obviously, as students to be able to take part in all of these different roles. But Sonja, let's maybe just finish off with your take-home message there.
Yeah, so archaeology is definitely not for sissies. It is really hard work. It is hot, and it was actually freezing the one day and then hot the other day. But I think the best part of the dig was sitting next to someone while they dig and they find a really cool stone tool and they get all excited and like, what is this? What is this? And they really want to learn and they want to be part of it. And that was just the best for me, is having everyone get so excited.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think, again, it comes down to kind of knowing what you're doing in the field as well. It's one thing being in the field and actually helping and stuff. But I know Tim spoke a lot. We spoke a lot, when you guys are in the field. And it's so important about not only just coming to help in the field, but being brought into the process and actually understanding. So Tim was telling me a lot of the discussions that you guys had on site, talking about the various artifacts and the overall significance of the landscape and understanding these kind of deeper burning questions in terms of why you guys are actually in the field to start with anyway. It's so important, it's not just digging holes, in the middle of nowhere in these crazy wild environments. It's the fact that we've got these broader, deeper questions that we'd like to answer through our archaeological surveys and excavations. So yeah, but thanks very much. I think that pretty much brings us up onto time now before we get booted off Zoom. But Sonja, Courtney, Natalie, and Joanne, thank you very much. It's been great to chat to you guys today and hear about your perspectives as young students entering the field and stuff. It's always important to kind of hear these voices and capture these perspectives because, getting involved in archaeological work for Tim and I was very easy when we were an undergrad, but there's potentially certain issues that may hold certain students back in terms of getting into the field. And it's really just about, getting involved with a group and experiencing archaeological landscapes. And it really does kind of give you a sense of perspective. So I hope that this has solidified for some of you a little bit more what you want to study in archaeology and that you're going to continue with archaeology because you all sound like great students and that you're very excited and passionate, especially about stone tools, which is great. So hopefully you guys carry on and get into the field again and stuff. But yeah, it was great to chat to you guys today. Tim, thanks obviously for organizing this today.
Cool. Thanks everyone. And thanks for all the hard work in the field. There was certainly some challenging moments, that's for sure.